All right, Alan, here's your order. Appreciate the order. It's a really good combination here. Really nice radio for a good price. It's got some good features, good technology. A little less power than some of the newer ones, but I mean, we're only losing maybe half an S unit, if that, of difference in power, so it's not really a big deal. You're very easily able to overcome that with a good quality antenna or something like that. So antenna really is everything anyway. So power is just a number. Antenna gives you performance. All right, so you are able to take advantage of the 5% off when you buy a new 10-meter radio. That's the new thing on my website. If you go to my website and you browse around, most everything will show that underneath the product. If you buy a new 10-meter radio, which this is, you can save 5% off anything else on the site. That only shows up in your cart, so you wouldn't see that take effect right away on the product until you go to the shopping cart and then total everything up. So for this microphone, I'm going to remove this blue wire here. Essentially where that goes is to the end of the mic plug here, which is number 4. That's that blue wire. So I'm going to remove that because that allows you to safely use the mic with this radio. I'll take this cover off, take the screw out. I'll heat shrink this. I'll put it under there, and then I'll put it screwed and cover back on. Essentially now the mic is the DX version, so otherwise, you would have to limit yourself, I think, to just the DX model. That's why I didn't really want to sell that one. I figure I can do that here myself, make it the DX version, simply because you just take that wire off. So I'm not sure on the DX model that I could get if the wire's actually off in the mic. I want to say maybe it's actually off in the mic plug. So I think this way is better for me and my customers, because some customers don't need this off and they might want to run this mic on a standard radio like a 4-pin Uniden, Cobra, whatever have you. And some radios you need the RX wire to get sound out of the the radio's internal speaker. So this one you don't. So I'm going to remove it. If you ever want to put it back, just simply take the blue wire out, solder it back to this point here. I'll just kind of zoom in on it so you can see exactly where it is, but it's right before the grounds are attached. So this last solder pad here is where it's going to be. So you got your other 3 wires here, and this is your RX wire. So pretty simple setup there. Alright, so I got your mic all set up. This is the radio for you right here. Let's get it out and get it going. Okay, so as always, you get a PC programming cable with the radios for me normally, unless the manufacturer doesn't supply one. There's a few 10-meter radios from Stryker that they don't supply, but these radios and the Radio Oddities and the Anytones that I would sell, normally I always request the PC programming cable because it's a very minor fee for me, and I don't charge any extra for including that for the customer. It's just something I feel like if you buy a radio that's PC programmable, they should offer it. And I do. Some sellers don't. That's entirely up to them. And with Stryker, there's nothing I can do about that. They don't supply it from the factory, and they don't offer me any discount or anything to to give really a cable with the radio. The only one they have is the 955. That one does come with a cable. The 655 doesn't, and the 447 HPC2 doesn't. But as far as PC programming goes, I can handle that stuff here when I Mars and align those radios. It's not a problem, but some customers might want to do it after the fact, and then they have to source their own cable. But with these radios, the Radio Oddities, for the most part, except for when I was carrying the QT60, they didn't offer it with that one, but they did the QT40, so it was kind of a strange thing there. But so generally speaking, I'll always have the cable if it's something that's available to me at the time of purchase with the radio to sell. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so when we're going to power this on for the first time, there's no really big secret here or anything on how to do this. You're going to hold the SRF and the function key, and you hold those down while you turn the power switch. The radio will say 1 band, you're going to make it say 2 band. And then you're going to hold the function until it resets. And you keep holding it, and it'll say reset end right there, RE end. So, or R end. then you're done. You're going to power cycle the radio, and you'll come back up, and now you will have pretty much all the bands. Not all the bands, honestly. The radio doesn't come pre-programmed like that. I will take care of that for in a second for you with the PC programming that I do. That'll give you 12 meter. It'll give you the ability to go up to at least 28.5. If you want to go farther, you can, but you just have to reprogram one of these other bands that you may or may not use. So let me run my file and I'll be right back. Okay, so the radio has been programmed, so let me cover a couple things here. If you go down to band A, I did put in the FM UK band. This is their 40 channel FM band. Now what you'll need to do is, if you wanted to be on the proper frequency, and the reason being is the PC programming doesn't allow you to put this 5 in, but you can do it from the radio. So you would need to go to every channel and essentially put the 5 in just like this. Now I did change it, a little bit of the setting in the PC programming now, so the clarifier now, when you change your receive frequency, it will change the TX with it, so it's in the R and T configuration. I'm not going to go through every single one. If this is something you want to use, I'll let you finish it out. But you can see now, if I press the PTT, that, well, we're not going to get a frequency readout because we're on sideband, so just one second here. There's 27.94125. We need to still align the radio slightly, but we got the 5 at the end basically. It's a little high, maybe 9 hertz high, but so it does read out on TX now too. Now in the past I've sent these out in a different clarifier setting, and I can show you which setting that is. So if somebody got one of these from me in the past and you watched this video and you think that this way is easier for you, just switch your number 15 menu option to R and T. I think normally I have it in this setting, but if you like the R and T, just select that and then it's good to go. So I think this would be a little easier for some users. Now if you're a more advanced user and you want the selectable RIT and XIT, which is essentially what I used to send them out in, then that other way, the fine in, would be the better way to go for you. So now if we move along, we have the start of the 12 meter band. And here, if you want to go and adjust accordingly, like somebody's running a little bit different, you can make that number blank and then you can just select, and you can basically go, 10 hertz, 10 kilohertz, sorry, either direction from here. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to put it back here. You have to remember, when you're on HF or you're outside of a normal 40 channel, it doesn't matter what this says. You're looking at the frequency and not a channel selector. And sometimes guys, when they go up here to band D, they want to run some of these upper frequencies, and I've had guys ask me, well, why does it, when it's here and I do this, how come it doesn't matter what this says? These aren't channels up here. This is just frequency. And I try to get some guys to understand that you need to start focusing on frequency. If you want to talk about channels, then you need to stay from here to channel 1. These are channels, and they always have corresponding frequencies to them. But at the same time, we're talking channels here. Somebody says go to channel 20. You can just look here and go to channel 20 and know that you're there. But if somebody says go to 27.195, well, I don't have that right now. Yes, you do. You just do this. Okay, now you're at 27.195. So when you get a 10 meter radio, you need to have a little bit more understanding of frequency, as well as, when you're outside of a channelized band, which is, again, only this from 1 to 40. Anything else above that, it doesn't matter what your radio, if it has a channel selector, what it says, because you can go anywhere in here. Somebody could say go to 274316. Okay, let's do that. Whoop. Or in 5K steps right now. There we go. 431, and then we'll go to 6. Okay, there's 274.316, and that's where we are. So, you know, there's no really limitation on where you can go in frequency. That's why when I think about radio, I think about it more in the frequency time frame, because frequency makes more sense to me because it's just right in front of you and you tell the radio basically where you want to go. I know it's kind of boring and this is kind of like nothing to do with the performance of the radio, but there are some users that are still very new to the hobby and they don't quite understand these kind of things, and you know, there's not a lot of guys that are willing to take the time, I guess, to explain this kind of stuff, and some people have a harder time learning it than others, but it is, I think, useful. You know, channelized band, outside of a channelized band here, focus more on frequency. That's the main thing we can take away from this. All right, Alan, probably wasted 10 minutes of everybody's life here, 11 minutes, so we're going to carry on with the alignment part now. Well, before I say that, let's cover the rest of what I did. So when we go up here to the bands, we now have up to 28505 basically. And if you know, you don't need to keep them on the 5, you can keep them in the default setting here is 5K. So if you don't like the 5K, you can make it 1K. There's a setting in the menu for that. Right now it is in 1K, so you can go anywhere you want. This is a kilohertz setting, so you know, you can make these say whatever they want, kind of thing. So you can't go continuous though. You can only go down. You can only go about 10K here. You know, from 485. There's 10K. Actually, you can go 20K, so it's not too bad. I mean, you can, no matter where you are, you could go 20 kilohertz with this clarifier. Consider this as a VFO now, is basically a good way to look at it. So, you know, it's really what you make of it with this radio. It's very much usable on ham radio. If that's what you're into, you could use it. And I'll demonstrate that shortly on after I do the alignment. We'll put it on my dipole because the band is wide open today on 10 meter and 12 meters. So maybe we'll even try to make a contact if possible. Not sure. But let me get back to the alignment part. Alright, so we're going to do the alignment now. So I'm going to fix that frequency. It was just a little high. And that's going to be much better there. So that's simple enough. Do the FM power and stuff. I'm going to set it to 40 and 1 on the high and 1 on the low. We're going to go to our deviation setting next, and I'm going to set that to 4K, and then I'm going to move along and do AM. It's going to be 8 watts all the way up and 1 watt all the way down. We're going to set both of those to 95% or so modulation depth, and then we're going to go up to sideband and we're going to adjust the TOI for most linearity. And that's going to be it, really. These are pretty straightforward. They always turn out really good. So I'm not going to show everything because I've already made the video longer than it probably should be, but there's really a lot to learn in radio. And for some guys, they haven't quite got there yet. So, you know, a lot of guys have, and they're going to find a lot of what I said very redundant. But there are a lot of guys that haven't, and by learning these things, you can just make your radio enjoyment that much more. Alright, so this is your FM deviation. So these come in usually about 2.8. It's not bad or anything, but we want to try to do a little bit more. Now, I remember in the past, the radio didn't allow you to do this, but now it does, so it's quite nice that it does allow you to do this. Now, I think before maybe the limit was like 3 or something, but now we're at 4.1. I always go 4.1 just because, but 4 would probably be a good level too. Here's our AM modulation, so yeah, it's a little low. So we'll bump that up. Kind of split the difference between 90 and 96. And then if we come over here, let's stop this for a minute. Come over here and look at the oscilloscope. It looks really good there. That's what it should look like. These are awesome talking radios for AM. I mean, they just, you know, no modifications are needed, any of that stuff. They just simply sound good and they work really good. I mean, I'm a little too low here, but I mean, obviously we can still see the noise factor, so it's perfectly set for the high power scale, but you can see how good that looks there on the 20 kilohertz. So we'll come back into our high setting now on power and modulation and all that good stuff. So it's just a there's really no compromise here on things. You know, guys will say, oh, I can do all these fancy mods and stuff to the radio. Well, why do you need to mod the radio? I mean, show me where that actually helps on some, you know, on some test equipment, because that's what I would like to see. I can understand that part of it, but they generally never will show that. So here's how it looks now. This is from the factory, so it doesn't look too bad. I mean, you know, just by lowering that carrier from about 10, 11 that came out of the factory to about 8. But when we come up here and go to our AM modulation analysis, it's still about 10% too low. So I like to give it just a little bit more. Just about like that. And now we'll come back here and go here. There's not really a whole lot of change there, which is a good thing. You know, the guys that like to mod the radios and say I'm giving you all this wideband TX, which to me doesn't even make sense. What is wideband TX? Why do you want any more width than this? Because the power is here. When the power's there, it gets to the antenna on the other guy's radio. His antenna picks it up. You know, if it's going all over, going to the next channel and then some, then the other people are hearing it that don't want to hear you. If they wanted to hear you, they'd go to your channel that you're on, not on theirs if they're next to you or something. You know, it's a channelized band, and for the most part that's what these guys are focusing on is the CB band, saying that you need this wideband TX and all this stuff. I mean, that looks outstanding there. So if we look at our average power with the 1K tone for the guys that like all this average power, I mean, it's already double. It's almost went up 33% just from the average power with the tone. At times it hits in the 20s. So I mean, I don't know really what more you could say, and I'm not saying that I need to change capacitors or take parts out and put new parts in. I mean, the radio just works good, so you know, it's one of those things. We'll go ahead and do the sideband now. Alright, so the sideband on this obviously is a little too much. You can see how it's got a flattened look to it, like it's kind of caving in on the top. It's supposed to be cylinder looking, like rounded. So it's not very impressive, you know. And then, you know, I already have my 1 and 2 pretty much lined up. So we're going to go over to our measurement and hit TOI. And it's about 24, so that's pretty good from the factory there. It's just it's a little over mod, so we're gonna go in and fix some of that, and the number may or may not come up from there. We may actually, looks like it's actually gone down just a little bit. So you know, in that sense it was as good as it could be on TOI, but what ended up happening is the radio's just a little over mod in that sense. So you know, at a certain point they did a pretty good job from the factory there, but now if we look at that, it's a little more cylinder looking and rounded, so you can see it there. And if I put it back where it was, which it's a little harder to see in that view, but there you can see it in that view how it looks like a flat top. So we'll kind of round that off a little bit to about there, and that's pretty much it there. I mean, there's not a whole lot that really more needs to be done. I don't know, like some of those weird mods that these guys do to these kind of radios and stuff, like what would happen to the sideband, but I have to think it would really mess it up and you wouldn't sound good. So you know, there's not really much room for improvement on the TOI here, but to be honest, 24 isn't really that bad. It's actually quite good, because we're always adding 6 to that number, per what the ARR would say with their lab testing, that, you know, they would add 6 to it. So we're at like 30, which 30 is very respectable. You know, 24 on the equipment, and add the 6. I mean, 24 is respectable. It's about as good as like an older HF radio or something like that. You know, the new ones are a little bit better, but you know, it's really good. So let's get out of that, because that part is done, and we'll go up to band D, and we'll take this up to 20, and we'll just start testing it now.